Hey class, and welcome to Module 12. This week's module is coming to you, if you haven't already guessed, from New York City. And not just New York City, but Wall Street, the financial capital of the United States, and a perfect place to talk about business law. Now class, you may be thinking this is why I came to Wall Street, and this is why we're doing our class from New York City. We're here at the New York Stock Exchange here in Wall Street. It's probably one of the most influential financial buildings in the world, and yeah, if you're into business law, as I am obviously, this is a pretty big deal being here. But this isn't why we're here. Okay, class, well, we got off Wall Street. I'm going to take a little bit of a shortcut and get off the main drag here, and we're on Hanover Street right now. That's Exchange Street, and not quite as busy here, but we're going to be getting back on Wall Street here in just a little bit. And guys, I got to tell you, class, this is just such an exciting thing for anybody who's into business law as I am. It's exciting to be here. Now, class, a little bit of a off subject here, but that building right there, that is Delmonico's Steakhouse. And I'm going to tell you something, guys. I wish I was teaching class from there today, because Delmonico's is probably one of the most famous steakhouses in America. It is home of the legendary Delmonico steak, and it really, really is an amazing place from what I've been told. It's got its own Wikipedia page. You guys should check it out. But Delmonico Steakhouse, I really wish I was doing my lecture from there, but I'm not. We're going to go somewhere else to eat after this. The reason I'm bringing you down here is we're here on Beaver Street now. I just turned on Beaver Street. We're walking on down now, and up there is Pearl Street and Wall Street, and like three streets kind of intersect here. And this is why I brought you here. This is why we're having our class here in New York City for this intersection right here, because there's so much to talk about when we're talking about contract relationships. But right here, I think is going to be a good location, because we have something that maybe isn't necessarily historic, but I think it's pretty cool, and it's going to be a really neat place to do our lecture from. What is that, you may be asking? Well, that's this building right here. Here it is, class. The New York Cocoa Exchange, 1 Wall Street Court, the Beaver Building. We're doing our class from right here. Well, class, we made it here, our destination, 1 Wall Street Court, the Beaver Building, the New York Cocoa Exchange. All of these are used to describe this building that's right behind me. Now, this building is pretty noteworthy, and for a number of reasons. It was built in 1904. It's a beautiful building, and it was a home of the New York Cocoa Exchange from 1939 to 1979. So some of you may be wondering, okay, what famous case involved the New York Cocoa Exchange? Why are we talking about this building right here in New York City? Of all the places in New York City we could have filmed our lecture, why are we doing it from this location right here? Well, the fact of the matter is, we've started with Module 12, and we started with a very important subject, which is contractual relationships. Now, right off the bat, you should have read Chapter 13. If you haven't read it, stop the video now, read the chapter. You should have also seen that movie clip that I posted right before we started this video. That movie clip is from a movie called John Wick. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, I think it's a great movie. You may like it as well. It stars Keanu Reeves, and he plays a retired hitman whose dog was killed by some really shady gangsters, and he goes on basically for the next hour and a half killing all the gangsters in New York City. So it's kind of a simplified version of it, but it's a really cool movie. It's worth checking out. But it stars Keanu Reeves, and one of the important locations in the movie is a place called the Continental Hotel. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, the Continental Hotel is kind of like a gangster-run hotel. That's maybe a misnomer, but it's a hotel in which all the gangsters in New York City and all the hitmen in New York City agree that no business will be conducted on Continental Hotel grounds. That building right behind me is a site of the Continental Hotel. Now, it's now a sushi restaurant. I guess it's a residential building. They've got apartments there, which I imagine cost a lot of money, because it's right here at Wall Street. There's also a sushi restaurant there. We're not eating there. It got 3 stars on Yelp. I heard it's not very good, which is a shame, because that would have been really cool to go inside the Continental and eat there, but we're not going to do that. But I'm going to use this as an opportunity to talk about this week's subject matter, which is contractual relationships. Now, right off the bat, I want you to throw out everything you think you know about a contract, okay? This is a very important subject. In fact, this is probably the most important subject we're going to be talking about in business law. it's important that you have an understanding of contractual relationships. It's also important to, like I said, throw out everything you think you know about it. A contract is not a fancy legal document that parties sign. A contract isn't on something that has to be on a specific type of form. Ladies and gentlemen, class, a contract doesn't even have to be in writing. Or if it is in writing, it could be on something as simple as a napkin, a bar napkin. In fact, we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the class. A contract is quite simply an agreement that the courts will enforce. That's it. That's all. A contract, again, can be oral. It can be you can say something to me, and form a contract. But it has to have three things absolutely to form a contract, and also a fourth thing, which is why we're here. But I want you to really, really, really understand the three foundations of a contract. It's really a three-legged stool. Think of a stool with three legs. And then we're going to tack on a fourth leg just to make it a little sturdier. And that's why we're here. Now guys, I'm going to repeat this, and I want this to be your mantra as we finish the class. Say it with me, class. Offer, acceptance, consideration. Offer, acceptance, consideration. Say it with me, class. Offer, acceptance, consideration. Offer, acceptance, consideration. I want you to repeat that. I want that to haunt your dreams for the rest of this class, because that is such an important subject when it comes to contractual relationships and when it comes to business law, because really contracts is probably the most important thing we're going to be talking about in this class. This is going to be the foundation of the rest of our class, and just a hint, class, this is going to be a major subject for the final exam. Offer, acceptance, consideration. No, nothing about there in writing. Nothing about it has to be on a legal contract. Nothing about state of New York forms or state of New Mexico forms or anything like that. Offer, acceptance, consideration. That's all you need to form a contract. Offer. The offer is the W question, or the W statement, excuse me. Would you blank? Will you blank? That is an offer. Will you sell me your car for $5,000? That is an offer. Next, acceptance. Yes, I will sell you my car for $5,000. It has to be, the offer is a yes, no, the offer is a W statement. The acceptance is the Y statement, WY. Offer, acceptance. Will you blank? Yes, I will. Now we've got two things, but the third thing is consideration. What do we mean by consideration? A contract is not a favor. Would you give me your car? Sure, I'll give you my car. Guess what? We don't have a contract, because guess what? Force an agreement for you to give me a gift. You just won't do that. We don't have a contract. Consideration, it can't be a favor. The courts do not consider a contract an offer of a gift. You offer me a gift, I accept. We don't have a contract. We just have a gift that I can rescind. You offer to sell me your car for $5,000, I accept. We got a contract. And here's the other thing, class. The courts very rarely will get involved in the amount of consideration, or if the consideration is fair. You offer to sell me your 2019 Escalade, or you're going to sell me your 2019 Ferrari even for $1, guess what? That $1 is consideration. Offer, acceptance, consideration. You've got to have those three things. Now, what we're here at the Beaver Building for is because of the movie John Wick. And John Wick is a great movie, and now that you've seen that clip, a little bit loud. Okay, so you've seen the movie John Wick, and now that you've seen that clip from that movie, you haven't seen the whole movie, but you saw that one clip. Remember that mantra that I've been repeating throughout this lecture: offer, acceptance, consideration. What did you notice about that clip? In fact, why don't you pause the video here, go back and watch that clip for a second and take a look at it and see what you think. Well, class, you should have seen that video now, a second time, hopefully. Now you got a better idea about what we are looking at there. Offer, acceptance, consideration. Offer. Would you kill John Wick? Acceptance. Consider it done. Consideration. $2 million. So, again, offer, would you kill John Wick? Acceptance, consider it done. Consideration, $2 million. We've got a contract there. That's where that fourth leg of the stool comes into play, a legal purpose, or lawful purpose, if you will. And what we mean by that is it can't be a void or voidable contract. It has to have a lawful purpose. What exactly do I mean by a void or voidable contract? Well, a voidable contract is a contract where one party can disaffirm the contract. At least one party can basically walk away from the contract. The classic example of that is contracts with minors. Now, here's the thing: a contract with a minor is permissible, but the minor can always walk away from the contract, basically free and clear. Now, think of it this way: how many of you guys? Let me pick a show. Let's say Game of Thrones. Okay, you guys. Some of you might have watched Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was a really popular show. It really went off a cliff that last season and a half, but nonetheless, real popular show. And I won't lie, I watched it. I watched every season, and yeah, that last season was really painful. But I'm sorry, I digress. A lot of the characters in Game of Thrones, like Arya Stark, Joffrey Baratheon, all these characters. If you haven't seen the show, I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to like nerd out here, but a lot of the characters in the show were minors. They were kids. Arya Stark was probably like maybe 12 years old, 11 years old when the show started. I think she finished at 18. Joffrey Baratheon was maybe 12 or so when the show started, 13 or so. By the time the show ended, he was a teenager, but he started the show as a minor. That doesn't. Now he agreed to. I have no doubt that he entered into a contract to play that role. Here's the thing: that contract's not illegal. There's nothing that prohibits you from entering that contract with Joffrey Baratheon, or the actor who plays Joffrey Baratheon, or the actress who plays Arya Stark. But they can walk away, and the court's not going to force them to fulfill their end of the contract. However, you as an adult can't walk away from that contract. That is what we call a voidable contract. Again, a contract with a minor is a voidable contract. So did we have a voidable contract when we watch that movie clip? No, we didn't. We had what the law calls a void contract. A void contract is, the simplest way to think of it is, it's a contract to do something illegal. So that contract that we saw the movie clip from, the movie John Wick, that contract was a void contract. Would you kill John Wick? That's the end of the story there, because that is an illegal action. But the fact of the matter is, you had the offer, you had the acceptance, you had the consideration. What you didn't have is the lawful purpose. You had a void contract because it's against the law. The courts will not enforce that contract. What did I say about contracts once again? It is an agreement that the courts will enforce. The courts are not going to enforce a mafia hit. End of story. So you have a void contract. Consideration doesn't have to be money. A contract can be for specific performance, which we talked about in this chapter. It can be for an act. It can be for goods. It can be for any number of things. It doesn't have to be money. Consideration is not. I kind of said it earlier that consideration is the money involved. It can be something else. So if I say, will you give me your car, your 2019 Ferrari in exchange for my bike, like that one right there that guy's riding? That's consideration on both parties. That's an offer acceptance, and if you say yes, then we got an agreement, we got a contract. So it doesn't have to be currency, it doesn't have to be money. Now, sometimes a contract can be result in unjust enrichment. Sometimes we have quasi-contracts. Sometimes the courts will say, the parties were so unequal in bargaining positions that we're not going to enforce it. But don't think about that right now. Right now, we're talking about the basics of contractual relationships: offer, acceptance, consideration. Again, repeat it with me, class: offer, acceptance, consideration. But we got a few other things to talk about: specific performance. We've got punitive damages, things like that are all covered in Chapter 13. They're all very important. But let's go ahead and grab something to eat now. We passed by Delmonico's earlier. That would be a great place to eat, but I don't have it in my budget right now. New York isn't the cheapest place. But one thing I do want to get here in New York City is some pastrami. And the most famous pastrami shop here in New York City is called Katz's Deli. We're going to head over there right now and grab some pastrami there, because let me tell you, folks, that's probably the best pastrami in the world. It is amazing, and we're gonna try some here in a little bit. So we'll catch you at Katz's Deli here in just a little bit, class. So I'm walking down Wall Street once again, and I'm going to take this opportunity as we head over to the train station, and we're going to take the train to our next stop. But I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about something towards the end of the chapter that we really haven't had a chance to talk about much yet, and that's damages. Now, damages are awarded by a court after it's been established that there's been a breach of contract, and there are different types of damages, which we'll talk about. And I'm back here at the stock exchange, and I'm sorry, class, I'm getting distracted again, but man, it is such an amazing building. It's amazing to be here. But let's go ahead and get on the train. And we're back here at the train station now, and I gotta say, this is about as empty as I've ever seen a train station in New York City. I don't think I'm going to have trouble getting a seat here, and I don't think I'm going to stand out too much by recording my lecture here, so that's kind of a good thing. The Broad Street Station is apparently not too busy in the middle of the day, which is really strange because I've been on the subway quite a few times in New York, and it's always crowded. But let's get back to damages. The different types of damages you want to be familiar with are nominal damages, compensatory damages, consequential damages, and punitive damages. So what do we mean by these? Well, punitive damages would be damages meant to punish you for your bad behavior. That's ordered by the court. Nominal damages usually are established if I haven't been able to establish any actual damages for this breach of contract. Compensatory damages would be kind of like being ordered to pay me the dollar back that I paid you for the Ferrari. And consequential damages would be ordered to reimburse me for the lost profits, because I was going to sell that Ferrari for a whole lot more than $1. If you're ordered to pay me my lost profits, that would be consequential damages. Well, class, we're on our way to Katz's Deli. I got on the J train just by Wall Street, and we're heading up now to Katz's. I'm going to be honest, the first time I went to New York City where I've been on a train that's like this dead, in the middle of the day at least, and there's only one other person here on the train. I know I've seen the Joker, I know it's usually that's like a bad sign in movies, but this guy seems pretty chill and he seems like a pretty cool guy, so I'm not going to stress about it, but we're getting a few more people on. We're about 6 stops away from Katz's, so we should be there in just a little bit. We'll catch you at Katz's here in a little bit, class. Well, class, here we are, Katz's Deli. This place is a New York institution. It is arguably the most legendary pastrami sandwich in New York, probably in the world. It is a legendary place, and I'm looking forward to going and trying the pastrami there. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I was there a couple nights ago. I got a Reuben sandwich. It was great, but you know what? You don't go to a great Italian restaurant and get their burger, no matter how good it is. You gotta try what their specialty is, and here their specialty is pastrami. We're gonna be trying that here in just a little bit, but man, I just love being in New York City, and this is such a fun place to do a lecture and a fun place to do a class, and this is gonna be a dining experience. We are gonna have an amazing meal here at Katz's Deli, class. Now, one of the neat things about Katz's is they'll always have cutters if you want to stand in line and get the sandwich as opposed to sit down and be served. They'll have the cutters who will cut your sandwich for you. And here's a cutter who's preparing the Reuben sandwich. He's cutting the corned beef here. It's just a neat experience. He'll offer you a little sample. You can watch him prepare your sandwich. It's just a really mouth-watering experience. This place is always packed. It's just wall to wall. And as you can see here, there's just people everywhere. And it's not just a tourist trap. This is a popular spot for locals and tourists alike. It's just really a neat experience, and you can see how busy it is, and for good reason. I mean, these sandwiches are just amazing. Here's a line of people standing in line with the cutters, waiting to get their sandwiches. Just a really neat experience and a neat place to grab something to eat. Well, class, we are in Katz's Deli, and I met up with an old friend of mine, Luis, and I'm here getting the pastrami, and let me tell you, pastrami in New York City is amazing. This is supposed to be the best pastrami sandwich in New York City, and look at just like how caramelized this pastrami is. This is going to be great. Now, class, Luis has agreed to film this for me. I'm picking up lunch for him. We talked a little bit about contracts. What we got here, offer. I'll buy you lunch if you hold this camera for me. Acceptance, well, he's holding the camera, so it looks like we got a contract. Consideration, you remember when I talked about consideration not necessarily being money? I'm buying him a sandwich. I'm not paying him for it, I'm buying him a sandwich. So what do we got here? Offer, acceptance, consideration. We also talked about void contracts for something illegal. This is an illegal action here. Holding a camera is not illegal. I didn't put out a hit on John Wick, so it looks like we got a valid contract. We're both adults here. Neither of us are minors, so it's not a voidable contract. So it looks like we have a contract. Again, this is a contract for what we call specific performance. Specific performance is for a specific act. It's not for goods or anything like that. I'm asking him to hold this contract, which is a specific act. Now, we also talked a little bit about implied contracts this chapter. An implied contract is not expressed. I told Luis that if you hold this camera, I'd buy him lunch. That's pretty express, but if I said something maybe a little vaguer, for example, let's say I said, boy, if somebody would just hold this camera for me, I would get him lunch, and he picked up my camera and started filming, Well, we didn't actually technically have an offer and acceptance, but the courts would probably find that that is an implied contract. So that would probably be a valid contract in and of itself. But you know what? I'm going to be done talking here because I really want to try the sandwich class. So let me take a bite and I'll let you know how the Katz's pastrami sandwich is. Wow. That is hands down the best pastrami sandwich I've ever had. If you come to New York, you gotta come to Katz's Deli. This is amazing. Well, class, we're gonna talk a little bit more about contracts later on in this module. But make sure that you, as I said, you've already should have read Chapter 13. Make sure you're familiar with the material. I hope you'll enjoy this module. We'll catch you next week for module 14. Thanks, class.